Sorry, there's a creepy balloon floating around the back of your screen. This is going to turn into a weird video. As long as it's not a red balloon. I mean, yellow balloon's okay, but if it's a red balloon, I'm going to...
Yeah, I got that too.
Great. It's a whole different type of podcast.
Where's Pennywise? Find Pennywise.
I know, right? No, don't say it. Don't.
This is not like what is the one, Bloody Mary? Like, you can't just say his name 3 times.
You're saying all the names. Why don't you say Beetlejuice?
Beetlejuice!
All right. Well, let's go ahead and begin.
Okay.
So, do you prefer Jen or Jennifer?
Either one. Either one's fine. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
No, people call me both. So.
It's tough, I know, because before I used to only want to be called Mike, and then Michael became acceptable, and so now I don't even know what to tell people.
Exactly. Like, when it's formal, I'm always like, oh, I'm Jennifer, but then everyone calls me Jen, so it really doesn't matter to me.
Gotcha. But it's DeMarco, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then the company that you run is called Marketing Clarity?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what is, so let's do this. Let's find out who you are and what your company is and what it is that you do.
So I started Marketing Clarity about 8.5 years ago. And at the time, I was really trying to stay home with my son because he was a newborn, or well, he was about 1.5 years old at the time. And I found that I was able to use my marketing background to help small businesses with figuring out kind of their identity. And I was able to start building websites and help them with those sort of things. But over the years, it's turned into a full service marketing company. So we do everything from logos to flyers and postcards and banners. And we've even done menus for restaurants, like they're like in like the drive-through menu ones and everything. But really our focus is on the websites. So I love doing all the websites. It's my favorite part of all the marketing. I get to really brand a business from there and help them in various areas if they need it. And then I, help them as they grow and they need to edit their site. We're able to go in and do those sort of things to help them out. So it's really become mostly websites with all the other pieces added in as they did. So.
Wow. So when you first started with this, is this where you saw it going to? Or was it just something that you were kind of just doing? Because I remember when we first met, you were kind of like, it seemed like you were going kind of in a certain direction, more like promotions.
Right. Yeah. I don't know that when I first started 8 years ago, I could have envisioned being what it is now. Mm-hmm. I mean, back then it was kind of like hey, it just helps us get by to pay the bills. And now it's a full-blown LLC. I've got clients around the entire country, and I've talked to people around the world about doing stuff for them. I have everything from like the startup company to multi-million-dollar corporations now. Wow. So I never envisioned it quite being like this when I first started. And I don't know if back then I thought like, oh, someday I'll go back to like working in the corporate world type of structure. Mm-hmm. But I've quickly realized like that's not my forte at all. Like I love owning my business and I love helping all the people that I have. And it's great because I'm at a point now where my clients trust me with everything. So they send me new clients and they always come back to me when they need new things. And, every once in a while I have a client who's like, oh, you built my website 1 year ago and I'm starting another business. I need another website. And I'm like, okay, let's go. So it's really cool. I've seen people grow from, like hair care products to meditation teachers to people who work in the mobile industry. Like the clients are all over the board. And so I get to see all these cool new products and ideas that are coming out. So I enjoy it. I don't know. I love seeing all the ingenuity that comes from people. So it's been a real blessing. And no day is ever the same for me. So it's great for me.
Sure. Yeah. I think that's a big difference. Some people and it's not a bad thing because we need it to happen. The people who work in the corporate industry, they like the structure of the 9 to 5. And then that, hey, we're going to do, I know that on this is going to happen. We got this meeting on this day. We got that. But then there's another group of people who like to have things kind of, I don't want to say all over the place because that sounds chaotic, but that it is exciting because you don't know what's going to happen necessarily. Right. That something can pop up and you're like, okay, well now I have to figure out how to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to call it controlled chaos. Yeah. All right. I honestly never know what my days are going to look like. And people are always like, oh, you need to set hours. You need to work 9 to 5 and you need to tell clients not to text you after that. And I'm like, no, like I just can't do it. I get clients who text me like 3 a.m. some days. And I'm like, I can't, like, I don't know what's happening. But, you know, when I wake up in the morning, yeah, no, like, but when I wake up in the morning and I see a message, I'm like, okay, like I'm going to work on that today, you know? And every time I try to make a list for the next day, it's completely different by the end of that day. Like it's never what I think it's going to be. So some days are more hectic than others. And some days I'm like, oh, what can I work on today? And, you know, but it's fun and I enjoy it. So I have zero complaints whatsoever.
So to kind of go into that a little bit more, 8 years ago, you started the company.
Yeah.
You're a mother.
Yeah.
So you've got a job, you've got a child. Now you're trying to start a company.
So I actually didn't have a job at the time.
Oh, no.
No. So my son's dad and I moved here from California with the idea that I would stay home with him. Mm-hmm. So, you know, of course we went through the whole lawsuit, like custody thing, whatever. But when we were done with that, that's when I started my business because I didn't want to leave my son.
Okay.
So I didn't want to have to go get a job and do the 9 to 5. And at one point I had to take a break from my business because of, you know, just life circumstances. And I had a job for 2 years and it was great. I had fun there. But the minute I left, I was like, man, like, I don't want to do that again. So ever since I left there, I really focused on the business, not so much on being mom, but, you know, being business owner. So there was this big transition in my lifestyle at that point. But my son's older now. So, you know, he's got school and he's got his activities. And so I don't have to be, you know, on him 24/7, like making sure he's okay. So there was a huge shift in my life at that point.
So the thing that some people will probably see when they watch this, especially mothers or expected mothers or women who, you know, are obviously going to become mothers later on down the road who are thinking to themselves, so I want to be a mother, but I also want to have my own business. I don't want to leave my child. And they think that a job might be a better avenue because it's structured versus having their own business. And obviously you, from your experience and from what you've done, your whole idea was I can't have a job because I want to be able to spend time with my son. So what do you think, being that you have been in that position, what do you think some mindset or some thought processes are that mothers tend to have that maybe they should think a different way?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I think when I quit my initial job because I was having a baby and, you know, I was going to be a stay-at-home mom at the time, I guess what I didn't realize was I tied my identity into what I did for a living. And so when I took that away, I had a really hard time for years, like figuring out who I was and what I was doing on this planet. And at that time, I had to shift my mindset to maybe my purpose on this planet was to create this little being that was going to grow up to do great things. So then when I ended up having to go get a job and I kind of shut down the business for those couple of years, then all of a sudden there was this new shift in thinking and I was having to, you know, I felt like I was missing out on a lot of stuff, but my hours weren't 9 to 5. So I think if I had the 9 to 5, it would have been a little bit different. Okay. But because I was working at nights, like I was missing out. And then he'd go to his dad's and then I wouldn't see him those days. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I think the mindset at the time was kind of you know, we just got to make the money and that's how I have to provide for him. And it wasn't so much about nurturing him as it was providing financially for him. And so once that kind of came to a head and ended and I started my business, like in fully functional business at the time, again, he was a little bit older. So my mindset could be, you know, I can work really hard while he's in school to get stuff done. I can hang out with him when he comes home And then when he goes to bed, I can work really hard. And there are nights that I don't sleep. I sleep like 4 hours and I get up and then I have to like do it all again. And I'm like, oh, so tired. But then when we get to do, so he's homeschooled. So again, we have a little bit of a different scenario, but we get to take these random like cruise trips when every other kid's in school and we can afford to do that. So now almost my mindset's become, you know, provide our house and our food and all that stuff we need. But then it's, let's go have some fun. Like, let's have these great memories together that we wouldn't have had if I had a 9 to 5. So I don't know, my mindset changes depending on what stage I think we are in his life and how like my life has to adapt to where he is now. I don't know if that really answered your question. It was a lot.
No, I mean, and you know, the answer is always specific to the person, right? I mean, there are just people who might be in your boat or similar or in the beginning stages of doing something similar. And, you know, I can't speak to what it would be like to be a mom and have a child, but you can. And I think that might help some folks who are just trying to figure things out. And it's scary, I think, for a lot of people.
And it is. I mean, there's days that I'm terrified because I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do it all, you know? And I think you have to get to a place where you know it's okay to have those days. Because some days you're going to go out there and you're going to kick ass, and other days you're going to be like, I'm failing at everything. And it all comes with the territory. And you just have to accept where you're at for the moment you're in. When he was born, one of the things I said was I never wanted to say, I can't wait until he's 3 years old, so we're done with terrible twos, or I can't wait until he can walk. I wanted to enjoy the moment we were in at his stage in life. And so I think my business has adapted to wherever he is and what we're capable of doing at the time. I mean, I'm not going to take an infant on a cruise, but a 10-year-old, we just went to Mexico for a wedding, you know, like we can do those things now. So he gets to see different parts of the world. I get somebody to travel with because I don't have somebody. And then, you know, we've got the business and we run it, and my clients are great. They understand I'm a single mom. And so if I say, listen, like something's going on, they're like, okay, I got you. Like you've always got my back. I've got you during your, you know, whatever you've got going on. We'll talk when you're back from your trip or when you're feeling better or when he's feeling better, you know? So it works out.
All right. Well, that's good. And I think that's going to help some people because that, the thing that you always hear is, I don't know how I can do it. I don't know if I could do it either, you know, or if I should do it. And so I think that what you said makes perfect sense.
I mean, I've gotten to a point where it's a calculated risk, right? I'm old enough to have some experience. I'm young enough to take those risks. If I fall flat on my face, there's time to recoup still. And you just figure it out day by day.
So what are maybe some pitfalls or some roadblocks that you've seen? I know it's maybe specific for the business, but maybe it's maybe there's some specific things that have happened, and maybe there's some general things that have happened.
I think on one hand, when I first started out, I had this premise or this notion in my head that everybody was trustworthy and it would all work itself out. And then I didn't do contracts with people. It was just kind of like, okay, you know, you're going to pay me this much. I'm going to do this. And then all of a sudden I did all this work and I wasn't getting paid. And then I was like, okay, like how are we paying the bills this month? So we definitely didn't start off with like, oh, we're going to Mexico today. You know, it was very tough at the beginning. And I had to learn those lessons. So now it's like, nope, everybody has a contract. I don't care if you're my best friend, there's contract in place. You know, there's the initial retainer to get started on work, and then you pay the rest at the end. And, you know, and it stinks because it was like, I didn't want to have to run that way, but it became necessary. And then on the other side, if you look at, you know, the side of being a mom, I've had to learn to say, you know, today I just did the best I could. And if that meant I didn't quite get as much work done, or I didn't get to quite spend as much time with him as I wanted, I did the best that I could for, you know, whatever was going on that day. And tomorrow's a new day and we'll start over again. So I think learning not to be so hard on myself was a big thing. You know, like at the beginning it was learning those lessons about, not letting people walk all over you. And now it's okay. Well, my son doesn't need me 24/7, so it's okay. Whatever's going on.
Right. So do you think that when it comes to you're doing your own business, do you think that a person can be realistic, or can they be realistic and still accomplish their dream?
Of course. So I always set a goal for myself. Mm-hmm. I've always been very goal oriented as it is, but with the business, every year I have a goal for like how much money we want to make, right? So 25% up from last year, or 50% up from last year, or whatever it may be. Now, my goal, I always set way beyond what I know I can do, because you're never going to achieve more until you push yourself.
Right.
But then realistically, as we're going through the year and month by month, I see what sales have come in, then I go, okay, realistically, we're probably only going to hit this much this year, but it's still up from last year. So it's a win at the end of the day. And it's that whole premise of shoot for the moon and land in the stars. Either way, you're going to win. So I think there has to be a balance. Like, you have to push yourself to want to do more and grow, but be realistic as you're going through the process that you may not hit that, but you're going to do better than you were.
Are there any goals are incredibly important. You can't really accomplish anything until you start setting goals. I mean, in sports, they're called goals, so the whole process for it. But a lot of times I think the mistakes that people make is they set a unrealistic goal for what they're doing. And a lot of times it's based on what they want versus what they should be trying to accomplish. Right. And so how do you take baby steps that, with the idea that those baby steps are going to go to toddler steps and then kid steps and then people steps?
You got to crawl before you can walk. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. That's a good phrase. You should use that.
Okay. So, oh man, I don't know. I think I've been at least in business long enough that my goals are based on something that has already happened, right? So I know what my business did last year to set what that goal for this year is going to be. And so it's probably a little bit easier for me at this point to say, oh, well, your baby step is to do 10% more than last year. And then, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, and then it grows from there. But if you're just starting out, I think your goals have to start off with things like, let me make sure I have my branding together. Let me make sure I have my website together. Where are people going to email me at? What am I doing with social media? And put those pieces into a plan that build on each other. And then worry about, well, how much money now do I want to aim to hit in the next 6 months? Mm-hmm. Your goal doesn't need to be over a year. It needs to be realistic for where you're at. And as a startup, it's really hard to project a whole year out until you start taking some steps. Well, probably in this scenario, starting to crawl.
Right.
Those steps, right? Like the steps are starting to get the sales in, but you got to get the process set up first. And I think, in working with a lot of startups, when I talk to them, it goes straight from, I need a website. And I'm like, okay, great. What do you want on your website? And they're like, I don't know. Yeah. Like, okay. And then, so that's where I help people. And I say, okay, well, based on what you're telling me your website or your business is, I envision you need a contact page and a home page and this service page and this type of page and this, right? Mm-hmm. And then we have to figure out, well, what kind of pictures do we want to use to portray your business? And what kind of language are we going to use? And then I set them free to go like create the text, and then I might, smooth it over. Mm-hmm. But then we build it. So there's been so many businesses that I've straight out looked at them and said, okay, listen, you're having an identity crisis and I need you to take a step back. And then I help them put the plan together and then they can move forward. So I think it's the crawling versus walking all starts with where you're at in the business. So Yeah. I need to repeat it again.
No. Unless I'm not recording, then you have to.
Oh, no.
Well, let me ask you this then. And this might be a double-fold question because it could work with your business as well as just who you are, as a business owner. What's something that people ask you all the time? And really, what's the question they should be asking you?
No, I feel like everybody asks something different. What is something people ask me all the time? Honestly, the phrase I hear the most is, how do we get started? But that's usually because we've had a conversation about, what they're doing and what they want to do. And they feel confident with me after talking to me. What should they be asking? A lot of people don't ask for, like, I have a whole page of like testimonials from people, and people rarely ask for even that. Occasionally somebody will want a reference, and I feel like that's like a little far-fetched, but I'm like, yeah, here's some references, no big deal. But I have a whole page of people who, without me having to like prompt them and be like, hey, say this, they go and they've said, working with Jennifer is great. Marketing Clarity did this for me. And so that, I think, builds trust. The other thing people don't ask a lot for is, hey, can you send examples of your work? Right? Like, and I get a lot of people who have worked with somebody else. And then they say, I just had this terrible experience. And like, I literally just today had a call where this man says to me, I hired this guy to work on my website, and he built it in Wix, and we spent 2 hours on the phone, and he couldn't make any edits to the site, and nothing ever got fixed. So it was just kind of thrown together and never what he wanted. So I think it's important to like know who you're working with and that they can do the job that you need them to do. And a lot of people don't do that due diligence, and then that's where I usually come in and have to go fix it for them, which I'm happy for the work. But, at the beginning, people, I think, would save a lot more money if they didn't have to go through the process twice.
And do you think that is because, again, people are excited and they're not thinking it through? They're not thinking about the layers?
It could be that. It could also be, this person was just way cheaper. So I went with them. Especially during all of this COVID-19, there's been several people who have come to me as a lead, and they ended up hiring somebody else, and I know it was based over price, but you pay for what you get, right? And I definitely don't have the highest prices on the planet, but I'm definitely not the cheapest person on the planet either. Right. So, and I tell everyone, I'm like, if you need help later, let me know. I'm here to help. So I hope they don't crash and burn. I hope they hire somebody that's great. But just because it's the cheapest doesn't mean it's going to give you everything you want. So,
is there anything that you feel like people should know? Something that that you see as maybe it could be the time that we're in right now, something that people could take advantage of, or something that doesn't matter what time period it is, but people should take advantage of? Is there anything that you see that you can pinpoint?
So when all of the whole coronavirus started and there was talks of everybody getting put on stay-at-home orders, I went through just like everybody else, and I was like, panic. I don't know what to do with myself. And I was freaked out. And then I sat there one day and I was like, okay, everything that happens is a new opportunity. So what is the opportunity here? And it finally dawned on me, and I started having conversations with my current clients, and I started reaching out to everybody. And I said, hey, as a small business owner, there's always something that you wish you had time for. Mm-hmm. And so I would tell everybody, I said, this is a time of pause in your business, and this is the time to work on those things. Mm-hmm. So whether it's I need to edit my website or I need to get my business selling online, I don't really care what it was. It was a time to get those pieces done. So when you're done panicking and buying all the toilet paper from the store, right, sit down and work on those things, right? It didn't matter to me if they needed my help or not, but I wanted everybody to look at their business different, because the first thing we all jumped to as a business owner during this was, oh my God, I'm going under.
Mm-hmm.
We're not all going under. This is time for some businesses will fold, but this is a time for others to shine. And it's taking the time to make sure you shine during this. Now that we're starting to get to a point where we're starting to talk about reopening states and counties and all of that, I think for some people it's still a time to like take the pause and make sure it's ready to go.
Right.
But other people, you know, I'm hoping are in place and ready, like we're hitting the ground running because we're opening up.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's like a weird balance between like, are you still in your pause? Are you starting to open stores? Like, where are you at? So I think everybody just needed to take this moment to breathe and figure out what they need to do to be better when we open.
Right.
I even had a plan. I said, okay, you know, I really don't like posting on my social media stuff a lot. I don't have the time for it. You know, my focus is on doing stuff for my clients. And so at the beginning of this, I was like, all right, I'm going to put together my social media plan. I'm going to get it really going. I haven't had the time at all. I mean, I've been fortunate enough during this time that, you know, my clients have said, hey, I really need some help. I've gotten so many referrals because, you know, those other businesses need to get online. So I've been really fortunate during this time with all of that. But and I made a commitment to help as many people during this time as I could. So there's nights that I just haven't even slept, you know, and I've a couple of days of going nonstop before I crash. And I'm like, all right, guys, like I need 24 hours. Like, let me sleep, let me recoup. I'm good. But I think this was a really important time for a lot of people to get to where they need to go. So I would imagine that over the next couple weeks or so for me, you know, I'm going to have to just schedule out some time and say, you know, I didn't get the full pause like most companies did. And so now I got to sit down and like make the time to do those things, as, you know, instead of like, oh, today I want to take a break and watch this movie. Nope. Today during this movie time, we're going to go do our social media now, you know, so now, especially with everything reopening, some businesses, you're going to have to just budget the time. There's no way around it. So,
even though you're pretty stacked right now, how do people go ahead and find you? How do they open up a dialogue, and how do they, you know, maybe are there certain clients that you're looking for right now, or is it just anyone who wants to?
Anybody who is ready to get their website going, or who, I mean, even if you need a logo, you need business cards made, you need flyers, wherever you're at in the process, I think the best thing is just get in touch with me, and then let's have a conversation, right? I don't care what industry you're in. And I'm always very honest. Like, there are some things that I know I can't do. And so I can either refer you to somebody who I know can do it, or, you know, I'm very upfront and I tell people, I'm like, listen, that one's a little out of my scope of abilities, you know, and I don't want to lead you down the wrong path. So let's get you linked up with somebody else. Or I'm going to say, yeah, I can absolutely do that. Here's how much it would cost. You know, let's get it started, and we go from there. I'd say the best way to get a hold of me is through my email, which is just Jennifer@marketingclarity.net, and I'll send all this to you. And then if you want to check out my work, I've got my marketingclarity.net site, and it's got a whole portfolio in there, which even that needs to be updated, you know, and I just got to budget the time to do it. But you can, you know, it's got my phone number on there too. If you want to like shoot me a text, give me a call. Obviously people text me at 3 a.m, you know, but I think it's probably the easiest.
Okay. Well, good. Well, yeah, we'll add all that stuff. It will be in the description, and people can get in touch with you, and you know, go from there.
Right. That'd be awesome.
Well, it's been great chatting with you. Is there anything else you can think of, or anything else that you wanted to say before we wrap it up? You don't have to. It's just what I say at the end.
Probably the only thing would be for anybody that's unsure of what they need to do with their business, I'd say let's just have a conversation. I don't charge for my time to have those conversations, and we can look at what you have done or what you need to be doing and put together a plan. And then, the person can either say, hey, let's do it together, or, okay, now I'm going to go find somebody else. Mm-hmm. Either way, I'm open to having those conversations with people.
All right. Very good.
And that's it.
All right. Awesome. Well, this has been great. It's been fun getting to know more about Jennifer or Jen.
Either one. I appreciate it. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and do this with me. And, I don't know, it's my first one, so I can't wait to see how it actually came out.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to see how it works either. No, I'm joking. It'll work out. I've done one already. And there's a lot of people now that I'm sure are sitting at home who got furloughed or fired and are thinking, well, and I learned this a long time ago. If you only sign the check on the back, then you'll never be in control. You have to sign the check both on the front and the back in order to be in control of what you want to do. So
I've never heard that. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
You're welcome. You can use that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Jen. We'll talk later.
Thanks. Bye. Appreciate it. Bye.